Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever noticed how some of the smartest, most deeply self-aware people you know just kind of vanish from their social circles? I mean, it happens all the time, right? But it's so rarely understood. We usually just jump to conclusions, thinking, oh, they're being antisocial, or wow, they've gotten arrogant. But what if there's a totally different explanation hiding just beneath the surface? In this explainer, we're going to unpack the fascinating psychological reasons why highly self-aware people pull away. And I promise you, by the end of this, you are absolutely going to look at your social dynamics in a completely new light.
So, be honest. Have you ever just stopped replying to messages? Or maybe you felt this strange, almost heavy disconnection from people you used to hang out with all the time. If you're nodding your head right now, well, psychology actually has a really fascinating explanation for this. It turns out this sudden urge to pull back is directly linked to your growing self-awareness. Basically, as you become more aware of who you are, you naturally become intensely selective about where you invest your limited time and emotional energy.
And this brings us to a massive disconnect in how society actually views this behavior. I mean, look at this. From the outside, it totally looks like a sudden, arrogant disappearance. People see it and think, oh, okay, they just think they're better than everyone else now. But the inside reality? It's a quiet, highly intentional psychological transformation. What looks like disappearing from the outside is really just a person finally discovering something profound about human behavior. It's not about arrogance at all, honestly. It's entirely about a sudden, overwhelming spike in awareness.
All right, moving on to part 1, the hidden patterns, reading between the lines. You see, this shift doesn't start with some grand dramatic falling out. It actually begins really quietly. At first, life feels normal. Your friends make you laugh, you take conversations at face value, but then the self-aware mind starts picking up on the little things everyone else just ignores. You start catching those smiles that don't quite reach the eyes, or you hear compliments that sound nice on the surface, but carry this heavy undertone of hidden jealousy. You start noticing the fair weather friend who only reaches out when they need a favor, or the person whose support just magically evaporates the exact second you succeed.
Psychologists actually have a specific term for what's happening in your brain here. It's called pattern recognition. It's basically the brain's incredible ability to connect behaviors that once seemed totally unrelated. As your experience and self-awareness grow, your brain just gets faster and faster at making these connections. And here's the real kicker. Once your brain starts recognizing these patterns in your social circle, it becomes absolutely impossible to unsee them. It's like a magic trick being revealed. People don't physically look any different, but suddenly they feel completely different to be around.
Which leads us to part 2, exhausting noise, when conversations lose their shine.
Because once you can't unsee those patterns, surface-level social interactions start to feel physically and mentally draining. There's a massive difference between chasing attention and building genuine connection, right? And the emotional distance begins precisely because intelligent people stop confusing the two. They realize that a lot of everyday social interaction is just people blindly chasing validation, so they step back. Not because they don't care about people anymore, but because they start demanding real, genuine connection. They figure out that protecting their peace is infinitely wiser than exhausting themselves trying to please everyone in the room.
It really comes down to this. While others hear words, highly self-aware people notice hidden intentions. Research actually suggests that self-aware people spend vastly more mental energy analyzing conversations and social situations. They aren't just coasting and enjoying the moment, they're quietly analyzing the behavior driving it. I mean, imagine how exhausting that is. A conversation that used to feel super exciting now just feels entirely predictable. A crowded room suddenly feels strangely empty. It is a massive mental energy drain to constantly process the true intentions behind every single word spoken to you.
Now let's look at part 3, emotional intelligence and boundaries.
When you're drained by all that noise, your self-awareness naturally has to evolve into a structured defense of your mental peace. Carl Jung famously had an insight kind of like this. Until we become aware of what's happening inside our own mind, we'll keep believing that everything happening around us is just fate. And intelligent people eventually notice something really profound. Most people out there aren't actually reacting to reality. Nope, they are just blindly reacting to their own internal fears, their own insecurities, and their own hidden emotions.
And when you start mapping outward behavior to hidden emotion, well, everything changes. Take a look at this. When someone is constantly criticizing you, the hidden emotion is very often that they secretly envy your progress. The person who constantly interrupts you, they probably lack the internal confidence to just sit and listen. And that friend who always needs your attention is usually just terrified of being ignored. Seeing these emotional patterns, it's basically a superpower. It allows you to stop taking negative behaviors personally, You stop wasting your precious energy trying to fix people who are really just acting out their own internal struggles.
So pulling back from those draining relationships isn't coldness. Actually, scratch that. It's the exact opposite. It's the textbook application of emotional intelligence. It's understanding the emotions at play, both yours and theirs, but refusing to let those swirling emotions control your decisions. That is exactly why self-aware people don't react to every little argument or answer every dramatic text message. They've learned the hard way that every single time you say yes to the wrong person, you are simultaneously saying no to your own peace.
This brings us to part 4, finding clarity in solitude.
Once those boundaries are set, a profound shift happens. You go from just fleeing draining environments to actively embracing restorative silence. And this is perhaps the absolute biggest societal misunderstanding of all. People assume intelligent individuals disappear because they've just fallen in love with loneliness. But the truth is the exact opposite. They don't crave loneliness. They fall in love with clarity. For the very first time, silence stops feeling empty. Instead, it becomes this amazing sanctuary where they can finally hear their own thoughts without the deafening noise of other people's expectations.
And modern psychology completely backs this up, by the way. Healthy solitude actually improves self-reflection, it drastically enhances emotional regulation, and it betters long-term decision-making. Highly self-aware people intentionally use this time to recharge their minds. While everyone else is out there chasing constant attention and applause, these individuals are quietly in the background, reading more, thinking deeply, and building genuine self-respect. Because real confidence, after all, isn't built from the applause of a crowd, right? It's built in these quiet, completely unobserved moments of clarity.
All right, final section. Part 5, a new chapter begins, the gradual departure.
The priorities have shifted. The noise is gone. But it's important to realize this departure is far from a sudden snap decision. This quiet transformation happens in very methodical steps. Step 1, they simply stop arguing with closed minds who've already decided not to understand them. Step 2, they stop chasing those transactional friendships that only survive when they are useful. And finally, step 3, without making any grand announcements whatsoever, they quietly build a life completely independent of constant approval. To the outside world, yeah, this looks incredibly sudden. But inside, this methodical decision has been growing for months, maybe even years. They've just finally become incredibly intentional with their limited time.
So I want to leave you with this. If you've recently found yourself stepping back from certain people in your life, ask yourself, are you running away or are you finally walking toward the life that's truly meant for you? Because sometimes the people who seem to disappear aren't getting lost at all. They are, for the very first time, finally finding themselves. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep growing, and absolutely keep seeking that clarity.